Hey everyone, and welcome back to another explainer. So, if you're the kind of person who just loves geeking out over the hidden structures and things we interact with, every single day, well, you are in the absolute right place. Today, we're going to do a little bit of linguistic archaeology. We're exploring the etymology of faith, specifically looking at suffixes and sacred history. Think about it. We use the names of the world's major religions constantly, right? In the news and history books, just in casual conversation. But have you ever actually stopped to look at the building blocks of those words? Like the actual little suffixes that make them up? Well, as you're going to see today, the very letters we use to name these belief systems contain this incredibly fascinating linguistic mystery. All right, let's just dive right in. So here's the big question. Why is it called Hinduism, Buddhism, and Judaism, but not Christianism? Seriously, try saying Christianism out loud right now. It sounds almost like a spoken typo, doesn't it? It's wild how this anomaly is just hiding right there in plain sight. It's a word ending we're so incredibly used to hearing, but the exact moment you try to apply that same linguistic rule to one of the world's largest religions, it suddenly sounds completely wrong. Christianism. Yeah, no, it just doesn't work. But why? Let's take a look at the standard pattern we usually expect. I want you to really listen to the rhythm of these words as we kind of stack them out. Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Judaism. Do you hear that? That steady, repeating cadence? We use this naming convention all the time to categorize these incredibly diverse, ancient, and super complex traditions. Our brains just absolutely love a pattern. And linguistically speaking, we've firmly placed all of these faith traditions right into the exact same structural box. But, okay, this is where it gets absolutely fascinating. This break in the pattern, the fact that we just don't say Christianism, it isn't just some simple grammar quirk. It's not a random spelling anomaly. Religion names actually hide language history. The real reason these words end differently is because the words themselves are literally tiny time capsules. If there's one so what you take away from this explainer, it's that history is buried right inside our everyday vocabulary. If we peel back just 2 or 3 letters at the end of these names, boom, we find entirely different historical origins. But to truly understand the exceptions, we first have to understand the rule. So, part 1, the ism belief system. Let's get into it. What's super interesting here is where this suffix actually comes from in the first place. The suffix ism is a Greek and Latin root, and its specific definition? It means a belief system or ideology. Now, this is a profoundly important distinction. See, when we attach ism to a word, we are essentially applying a Greek and Latin structural lens to it. We're labeling it as a structured system of thought, an organized ideology or a distinct set of beliefs. That Greek and Latin root perfectly justifies why we use ism to describe Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, and Judaism. Just by tacking on those 3 little letters, the English language is actively categorizing them as structured belief systems. All right, moving on to part 2, the Arabic root of Islam. Now, languages are living things, obviously, and they definitely don't always follow a neat, straightforward path. Which brings us to our very first major exception. Take a look at the Greek and Latin suffix ism compared to the final letter of Islam, which is just M. When you say the word Islam out loud, it might actually trick your ear into thinking it ends with that exact same ism sound we just talked about. It kind of sounds like it fits the pattern, right? But visually and structurally, its ending is completely different. The M in Islam is absolutely 100% not the ism suffix. So if it isn't a Greek or Latin suffix pointing to an ideology, what is it? Well, it derives entirely from a specific Arabic root. The word comes from the Arabic word Islam, which carries the literal meaning submission to God. And wow, this is a fundamental shift in how the word operates. Its name acts as a direct historical and theological description straight from its original language, rather than some Greek or Latin ideological label just slapped onto it from the outside. In this case, the word itself is the definition. And that brings us to part 3, the state of being Christian. This brings us right back to that initial mystery that kicked off this whole explainer. Why on earth don't we say Christianism? Well, it's because instead of ism, Christianity utilizes an entirely different suffix. It uses iety. And just like our previous examples, this suffix has its own distinct job to do. It has its own motive. The suffix iety literally means the state of being. Think about how fundamentally that changes the descriptive nature of the word. An ism defines a system of thoughts, right? An ideology you might study or adhere to. But iety describes a condition. It describes a state of existence. So when you put the root and the suffix together, Christianity literally translates to the state of being Christian. It isn't just a categorical label for a belief system. It's not a checklist of theological points. Linguistically speaking, the word is custom built to describe the actual, lived state of existence of being a Christian. It's a condition of being, rather than just an ideology. And honestly, I think this brilliantly illustrates our broader theme for today. A tiny word difference carrying centuries of history. We're talking about microscopic linguistic shifts here. The difference between an ism, an itzidi, or an Arabic root word might just be 2 or 3 tiny letters on a page. But those letters encode massive amounts of human history. They tell us how different cultures categorize the world, how languages interacted with one another over time, and how ancient people defined their very own relationship to their faith. It's like a giant puzzle. Which leaves us with a genuinely fascinating question to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. If the simple names of world religions hold this much hidden depth, what other centuries of history are hiding in the everyday words you speak? The language we use every single day is essentially an archaeological dig site just waiting to be explored. So I highly encourage you to start looking a little closer at the words you usually take for granted. You might be surprised by what you find. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I will see you in the next explainer.